Hello students, good morning everyone. This is Priya from Alpha Group of Institutions and welcome back to our social e-learning session children. And today we are going to discuss History Chapter 3. Chapter 3 in History, that is ruling the countryside. So in the last two sessions we have completed, not in the last, in the previous sessions in history we have already completed the first two chapters, right? So this is chapter 3 ruling the countryside, and today we are going to discuss the history part which lies behind this ruling the countryside. Okay, now the first English ship sailed towards India on 18th century. Before entering into the detailed description children, like it is on 12th August 1765. It is on 12th August 1765 the Mughal emperor appointed the East India Company as the Diwan of Bengal. The company came to colonize the countryside, organize revenue resources, redefine the rights of people and produce the crops it wanted. In this way, the English people, the Britishers entered India. So in this picture, if you notice here, this is the first ship which entered India on 18th century. Okay. Now, grant of Diwani and financial powers. The East India Company was made the Diwan of Bengal on 12 August 1765 by then Mughal Emperor Shah Alam II. Thus, the company became of the chief financial administrator of the territory of Bengal. The company officials understood one important aspect of expanding their base in India. They understood the importance of those who had ruled the countryside in the past and had enjoyed authority and prestige. The company wanted to be careful not to annoy those people. Growth of revenue. Initially, the company was just interested in collecting revenue so that its trade and other expenses could be financed. But the company was not interested in setting up any regular system of assessment and collection. The revenue was enough to double the purchase by company within 5 years. Growth of problems for common people. But the Bengal economy was facing a deep crisis. Artisans were being forced to sell their goods to the company at low prices, and hence most of them were deserting their villages. Peasants were not able to pay the dues. Production by artisans declined. The farm production also declined. In 1770, a terrible famine hit Bengal. It killed 10 million people. It killed 10 million people. Children, here on 12th August 1765, Robert Clive, on behalf of East Indian Company, accepted the Diwan of Bengal from what? From the Mughal ruler. The company became the chief financial administrator of the territory under its control, and so the company had to think and plan to the organization of Bengal in such a way that it could earn maximum profit out of the territory. Profits that could be used to finance their business and wars. As a foreign power, the company realized that it needed to manage the local rulers in India's villages because they were respected by the locals, and removing them might bring anger between the common people. Okay. Now look, this is Robert Clive accepting the Diwani of Bengal. He is the Mughal emperor, and this is Robert Clive, and he is receiving the Diwani of Bengal. Our Mughal empress like appointed them only for the welfare of our India, our nation only. But these fellows misused, took advantage on them. So what can they do? Although the company had become the ruler of Bengal, it continued to work like a trade and did not set up any regular system of assessment and collection. Let us see into the Robert Clive session. Yes, Robert Clive. Robert Clive, first Baron Clive, also known as Clive of India, Commander in Chief of British India, was a British officer and soldier of fortune who established the military and political supremacy of the East India Company. In Together with Warren Hastings, he was one of the key early figures in the nation creation of British India. He also sat for two boroughs as a Tory member of Parliament in Great Britain. Modern historians have criticized him for atrocities and pillaging of treasures which occurred in Bengal and India due to high taxation he instituted for. Although the company had become the ruler of Bengal, it continued to work like a trader and did not set up any regular system of assessment, right? And even in the collection also. So by 1770, by the year 1770, within 5 years of it, it became the like the ruler of Bengal. The prices of goods bought by the company doubled in its cost, and this brought great profits for the company. And earlier it had to import precious metals such as gold and silver from Britain to buy goods from India for export to Europe. But after it became the Diwan of Bengal, it started using, it means what, the British English. It started using the revenues from Bengal to buy its goods. And but the economy of Bengal suffered deeply. Peasants were unable to pay the dues and artisans' production fell because the company brought the artisans' goods at low prices by force, by commanding them. And as a result of such exploitative practices on high prices, there was a famine in Bengal in 1770, and that killed how many? Nearly 10 million people, a third of, like one third of Bengal's population. It took the lives of Bengal people for nearly 10 million people. Understood? Now coming to the permanent settlement. The company had to take some steps to improve agriculture by improving investment in land. The permanent settlement was introduced in 1793. According to this, the Rajas and Talukas were recognized as Jamindars and were given the responsibility of revenue collection from the peasants. The amount to be paid was fixed permanently and hence the name permanent settled. The company officials felt that it would ensure a regular flow of revenue. They also felt that this would motivate the zamindars to invest in improving the land. The zamindars would benefit from increased production because the revenue demand would not be increased. Really, there should be a need to improve agriculture. The company knew that most Indians practice agriculture. Most Indian people do agriculture only, right? And if it did not improve agriculture, then it cannot continue to earn big revenues, big incomes. So the company introduced the permanent settlement in 1793, whereby the zamindars were asked to collect rent from peasants and also pay revenues to the company. The plan was the actual cunning plan was that the permanent settlement will ensure a regular income for the company, and that it will also encourage zamindars, which includes, we have this read now, like rajas and talukdars, to improve lands in their territories because better lands will give them better income. So while the amount they had to pay to the company was fixed permanently. So when the pay, like the amount which they have to pay to the company was fixed permanently, they will be paying compulsorily, and they will try to improvise their income also. And because of that, these zamindars also, they use zamindars also as a key. Okay, next, the problem of permanent settlement. The problem of permanent settlement. The revenue was fixed at such a high level that the zamindars found it difficult to pay. A zamindar who failed to pay the revenue lost his zamindari. Hence, zamindars were not investing in the improvement of land. But the situation changed by the first decade of the 19th century. There was price rise and expansion in cultivation. The income of the zamindars increased, but it did not result in any gain for the company because of fixed revenue demand. Because of fixed revenue demand. The zamindars preferred to earn as much profit as they could not seldom bothered about investing in land. They were just happy to lease out the land to tenants. The system was extremely oppressive for the cultivator. He had to pay a high rent to the zamindar, but there was no security of his right on the land. Cultivator often had to take loan from the moneylender to pay rent. Failure of payment of the rental meant eviction for the cultivator from the land. Like soon after introducing the permanent settlement, children, the company realized that the zamindars were not improving the farmlands because the amount they had to pay to the company was so high that they had little money left to improve the farmlands. By 1810, the company also started feeling unhappy with the permanent settlement because rising market prices and increased cultivation increased the income of the zamindars, but not for the company. And despite the increased revenues, few zamindars showed some interest in improving the lands of their farmers. This was because many zamindars had lost their lands to the company and had lost interest in improving them, whereas others who had made big losses during the beginning of the permanent settlement, now they saw the chance to make up for their losses instead of spending on improving farmlands. And the cultivators in the villages also found the system unreasonable because sometimes they had to they have to borrow money from money lenders to pay the high rents to the zamindars, and if they were unable to pay the money back, they lost their lands, and they had cultivated for generations, and effectively making them and their families jobless and homeless. These are the tactics which were tricked by the English people towards Indian people. And this is a picture which is representing the sale room of East India House, drawn by Thomas Rowlandson and Augustus Charles Pugin. See, in 1809. So this is the picture. This is the sale room, like fixing the rates, fixing the taxes, revenue discussions. Everything will be done in this room. The room is purely only for East India House, and it was drawn by whom? Thomas Rowlandson and Augustus Charles Pugincy in the year 1809. Okay. Now, Mahalvari system. Let us talk about the Mahalvari system. Mahalvari settlement. So when we come to the Mahalvari settlement part, by the early 19th century, the company officials were planning to change the revenue system. A new system was devised called Mackenzie. Mackenzie was convinced about the importance of village in the North Indian society. He wanted to preserve this important social institution. He sent collectors to different villages to take a survey. Data regarding land size and type and customs and rights of different groups were collected. The revenue estimation was done by each village. The village was known as Mahal and hence the system was known as Mahalvari System. It was also decided to revise the revenue demand periodically. The village headman was given the responsibility to revenue collection, and the new type of system is devised now. And by the early 19th century, the company officials finally felt that they need more money and a system like the permanent settlement that limited the company's revenues and was not such a good idea after all. So Holt Mackenzie, another Englishman, devised a new system called the Mahalvari system, which come into the effect like which it came into effect in the year 1822. Under the new system, collectors were asked to visit villages and they have to measure and inspect the lands, and these collectors has to record the customs and rights of the different groups of people who lived in those regions, in those villages. After taking all of those into account, a revenue was estimated that each village or mahal had to pay, and that amount was also to be revised each and every time periodically. Okay. The second system is the Munro system. This system was also known as Viii system. It was first tried on a small scale by Captain Alexander Red. He tried it in some of those areas which were taken over after the defeat of Tipu Sultan. This system was subsequently developed by Thomas Munro. The system was gradually implemented all over South India. There were no traditional zamindars in the south. Hence, the settlement had to be directly made with the cultivators' riot. The riots had been tilling the land for generations. Their fields were carefully surveyed to make the revenue assessment. And in the south of India, where the lands were owned by riots means the actual cultivators, the original cultivators. The Viii system was introduced by Captain Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro, and like the then governor of Madras Presidency, who was at that time as a governor of Madras Presidency. Under the Munro, it means the Munro system means what? Viii system. Each field was separated carefully, like they were separately, field was separately and carefully studied before deciding on the amount of revenue to be collected from individuals. And all the three new systems designed and introduced by the British proved to be failures, because the company had imposed these systems to increase their income from the lands and farmers of India. But the revenues they demanded were so high, and that farmers went bankrupt and died of hunger, and their fertile lands became barren and they fell into disuse. Later, everything became a loss for everyone. That is a tragedy which happened in those days. And this Viii system was like one of the three principal methods of revenue collection in British India. It was prevalent in most of southern India, being the standard system of the Madras Presidency. It means a British controlled area and now constituting much of present day like Tamil Nadu and portions of neighboring states. The system was devised by Captain Alexander Reed and Thomas Munro at the end of the 18th century and introduced by the latter when he was governor in the year 1820 to 27. for governor of Madras. Now it is Chennai, right? The principle was a direct collection of the land revenue from each individual collector by government agents, and for this purpose, all holdings were measured and assessed according to crop potential and actual cultivation. The advantages of this system were the elimination of middlemen who often oppressed villagers and an assessment of the tax on land actually cultivated and not merely occupied. Offsetting these advantages was the cost of detailed measurement and of individual collection. And this system also gave much power to subordinate revenue officials whose activities were inadequately supervised. And the name of the system comes from the word riot. The name of the system comes from what? Riot. And what we have to say, this is Mahalvari system. Wait. Yes, riot. And in India, the Arabic word, raya, it is a word, and we call it as Anglicization by the British in India of the Arabic word raya, meaning a peasant or cultivator. Riot means a cultivator. The Arabic word passed into Persian and was carried by the Mughals, who used it throughout India in their revenue administration. And the British borrowed the word from them and continued to use it for revenue purposes in the anglicized form. The word has passed into various Indian languages, but in northern India, the Hindi term kisan is generally used. And later, what happened? Even though these many problems has done, nothing happened. Later on, only the victims, the everything became a burden only for farmers. They were not able to pay the taxes. They used to get borrow money from others, and they are not able to pay back that money to the others also. They can't cultivate crops. Their farms, the lands became unused. They have no money, no food. Later they died in attempting suicides, and also the lack of food. So this is what happened because of these types of systems. Understood, guys? And this is the picture of Thomas Munro. Thomas Munro. He is the governor. He was the governor of Madras in the year 1819 to 26. Sir Thomas Munro, first Baronet, KCB, 27 May 1761 to 6 July 1827. He was a Scottish soldier and colonial administrator. He was an East India Company army officer and statesman. He served with his regiment during the hard fought war against Hyder Ali. Hyder Ali, you all know, I think so, right? Tipu Sultan's father. In the year 1780 to 1783. Serving under his older and distant relation, Major Sir Hector Munro, 8th of November. And this is the picture of Thomas Munro. Now let us see problems of excessive revenue demand. What are the problems of excessive revenue demand? Income. Okay. The revenue officials wanted to increase the income from land. Hence, they fixed very high revenue demand. Peasants were not able to pay the revenue. The riots fled the countryside and villages became deserted in many regions. Excess supply causes the price to fall and quantity demanded to increase. Like a decrease in supply will cause an increase in equilibrium price, and a decrease in the equilibrium quantity of a good. And excess demand causes the price to rise and quantity demand to decrease. So what happened? The revenue officials wanted what? They wanted to increase the income from our land. So what they did, in order to increase the income from the land, they have to fix a high rate, high tax. They fixed a high amount for the Indian farmers to pay in order to increase their income through the lands. And what happened? The peasants, the people were not able to pay the taxes, not able to pay the fixed tax by the Britishers. And so these owners, these landowners, what they happened? They just left their villages and then they went away, or some of them did, some of them just stopped working on the land, some of them gave away the lands because they were not able to cultivate in it without the money. So all the farming lands became what? Deserted, because they left their lands as it is and they left their villages and went to some other places to survive. And as a result, what happened? It became like a deserted with no people and no plants and trees cultivations. So these are the problems because of excessive problem faced because of what? Excessive revenue demand. Okay. Now, crops of Europe. When we look into the crops of Europe, by the late 18th century, the company was also trying to expand the cultivation of opium and indigo. Opium and indigo. In the subsequent 150 years, the British also persuaded or forced the cultivators to produce other crops like jute, tea, sugarcane, cotton, wheat, and rice to be supplied to Europe. The East India Company. The East India Company introduced many land revenue systems and forced cultivators to grow opium, tea, sugarcane, jute, rice, cotton, wheat, and indigo for export to Europe. Indigo cultivation was the most popular due to its high demand in the European markets during the British rule. So, under the Mahalvari system, these landlords were charged with a very high rate of tax. They started deserting the countryside as it became impossible for them to pay tax. Many of the company officers were of like the view that the new system of collection will help these people to in becoming rich, but this never happened. Britishers were not solely dependent on the revenue generated from Indian territories in the form of taxes they levied. Okay, but they also decided to use the crops of the country in order to earn profit in the trading business. This we will study further. Now, when coming to the crops of Europe, by the late 18th century, Britishers tried to expand the cultivation of what? Opium and indigo in various parts of India. They also forced the cultivators to grow various other crops. What are the various other crops? They are like jute in Bengal. They they forced our cultivators, like the people who are living in Bengal, they have to cultivate only jute. And the people who are living in Assam, they have to cultivate tea. And people living in UP has to cultivate sugarcane. In the same way, the Punjab people has to cultivate the wheat and cotton in Maharashtra and Punjab. So Punjab they has to what to do? They have to cultivate wheat as well as cotton. Maharashtra they have to cultivate cotton and rice in Madras. These are the list which they had created and forced the cultivators to grow. Let me say once again: jute in Bengal, tea in Assam, sugarcane in UP, wheat in Punjab and wheat in Punjab, wheat and cotton in Punjab, cotton in Maharashtra, and rice in Madras. So, basically, the more emphasis was laid on cultivation of indigo, but why was it so important to cultivate indigo? First of all, you should know what indigo is and why is it used. Okay. So basically, indigo is a plant from which a blue powder is derived, and this is used to dye clothes in blue, or as we say, indigo color. Indigo was so important for what? Indigo was so important because it was the main exporter of indigo. It can only be grown in tropical climate. So climate of India was suitable for its growth. And one interesting fact about the wood and indigo is that the wood cultivators were so worried about the tough competitions they were facing because of the indigo, and that they pressurized their respective governments to ban the import of indigo. So, as there was very less supply, the British dyers became keener. They started concentrating to produce indigo, and at this point, they turned to India to meet their needs. These are the details of crops for Europe. Okay. Next, this is the picture of old courthouse, Fort William, Calcutta. Now it is as Calicut. Old courthouse, Fort William, Calcutta. See, and now it is what in this picture was taken in the year 1760 to 1774. So with this, let us end this session today, children. And because there is a lot more about to discuss about the indigo, cultivation of indigo, and the demand of indigo, the link between the relation between Britishers and India with the help of indigo, everything we have to discuss. So we will discuss about these indigo related things and printed things in the next session. So let us stop this session with this. Okay, and let us continue in the next session. The activity part I will be giving you now, children. Yeah. And this is your homework part, children. In this homework part, you have to do the fill ups and match the following in the textbook only. At the back of the lesson, you will be seeing the exercises, that is, match the following and fill ups. Don't write all this match the following fill ups in the classworks. Copy only the question answer part which we are sending you. Why we are sending you the fill ups and match the following is because you have to recheck the answers by seeing the key. You have to fill the answers in the textbook only. So today's homework is take the reference of the PDF which I am sending you. Do the match the following and fill ups in the textbook book back itself, and then and also you have to read after writing the classwork. Read question number 1 and then write your home test and post it in the group. So today's activity part is today's homework part. Listen clear carefully. Do the match the following. Do the fill ups in the textbook part. Okay, and also you have to write only the questions in the classwork notebook, and later after filling all these exercises and classwork content, you have to read the match the following, fill ups, and first question answer 1. You have to read all these three and then write your home test, get a sign from your parent, and then post it in the group. This is your homework part. Okay, children, hope you will definitely follow my instructions. Waiting eagerly to meet you directly in the school. Okay, and with this, we have completed session 1. We have 2 sessions in this chapter. First session is over. Second session, we will continue with the next thing. Okay. Thank you, children. Thank you so much. This is Priya signing off from Alpha Group of Institutions. Stay safe and stay healthy. Bye, guys.